year curriculum review, and you're gonna wanna know which curriculums I've already ditched and which are working fantastically. So stick around. All right, so if you don't know, I currently have a third, second, and kindergartner, and I'm just gonna go over this subject by subject and kind of let you know, here's what we're still using, here's why we like it. If you do want a more in-depth look into some of these curriculums, I will let you know which of these that either Jenny or I have already done a full review on. So I'll make sure to link those in cards or put them in the description. First up, let's talk about reading. Now, ever since I started using this with my third grader when he was in kindergarten, we have loved it. I'm not going back. So my kindergartner is still working through the level 1 of All About Reading. And then my second grader is working through level 3. He's actually almost done with this level, so we'll be moving on to level 4 here very shortly. I do have a full review of levels 1 and 2 that you can go check out, and then I'll be coming out with a levels 3 and 4 full review in the next couple weeks. Now, for my third grader, at the beginning of the school year, I realized that he had already kind of tested out of levels 3 and 4 for All About Reading, so I did not need to continue with those for him. I love how All About Reading has easy placement tests right on their website, so I'll leave a link to that as well if you're interested to see what level you might want to start your kid on if you're thinking about this curriculum. But so once he had tested out of levels 3 and 4, I didn't quite know where to go next. So what I decided to do was just to have basically literature studies. So that's what I'm calling this, but basically all I'm doing is having him read through novels that are a little bit on the higher end of his reading abilities, just so that he's reading that out loud to me and I can kind of see what words he might need more help with and just kind of get that practice of somebody guiding him through the literature. So the first book we did this year was The Iron Giant, and I did go ahead and grab a literature study. This one's by Blackbird and Company, Educational Press. Yeah, I mean, it was okay. It had a lot of comprehension questions, writing exercises, and it was fine. I used this more verbally than actually having him write anything, because I'll get into writing in just a little bit. But so I didn't use this to its fullest, so I was able to borrow this from our school's curriculum library. But I wouldn't say that I would go and purchase this to use, but it was kind of nice to just have some discussion questions on hand that I didn't have to think up myself. So that's what we have been doing. And then the next book we picked out was The Tale of Despero. I also got a study guide. This one, a literature unit, is by Teacher Created Resources. And they have a lot more activities such as make a diorama, quiz time, famous dungeons, some more activities. So this one's more activity-based rather than question and answer-based. Again, because I'm more open and go friendly, and the whole point of reading the story is just to read, just for reading practice. I didn't need to go into all the extracurricular in it. Although if my kid really needed something like that, I would do that. So again, not something I would purchase. I was able to borrow this, or actually did I purchase this? I can't remember. I think I wanted to try a different one. But yeah, so these two were very different. And I can't say that I loved either one. I probably like the questions one more than the activity one, to be totally honest, just because I liked having to have him verbally give me answers after we read, and then we moved on from there. So next we're gonna get into writing. And so for my second and kindergartner, I really wanted to do a little extra focus on handwriting before we got too much into actual writing little short paragraphs and whatnot. So last year I had used the Evan Moore daily handwriting practice, and I did really like that, but I didn't want my second grader to be doing the same thing over again. I thought he might find that really boring. So I went ahead and picked up some Handwriting Without Tears. So my second grader was able to do it, and then my kindergartner was able to do the next level. And it's very, very simple that they just open it up and I just sit with them to make sure that they are doing the proper letter formation. They're not trying to make their letters backwards. So they'll start, and typically they start in the top right corner, top left corner, and then they can draw down. So I was just making sure that they were forming their letters correctly, and then they could go ahead and practice on their own. And so my goal with this is just to have my kindergartner and second grader be very comfortable with all the letters in the alphabet, being able to write them, so that when we start getting more into writing, they're not stumped on how do I make this letter, and they can just kind of do the writing a little easier. For my third grader, writing is a big focus for us this year. Again, because he's going to be doing the end of the year state testing for California, it does require some written portions. So I wanted to make sure he was all ready for that. So at the beginning of the year, I had Write Source, and I thought it would be super simple. This is just the student edition. I didn't even get the teacher's edition because I just wanted to try it out. I had high hopes, but it was so dry and boring, and I felt like there were too many rules. Like it wanted the students to write very specific things, and it had no room for any creativity. And I didn't want writing, I know writing it can be very structured, but I didn't want it to just be so structured all at the beginning. So I decided to kind of switch gears, and so we moved away from Write Source very, very, very early on. So I went ahead and picked up one of these 180 Days to Writing third grade, thinking that this would help just be something that he could do daily, small little bits. Like, it doesn't have them writing anything crazy at the beginning. Like, even this very first page is, you know, here's tundra facts about animals, and they had to check what would actually make sense in that paragraph. So it was kind of teaching the writing process that way. I moved away from this already because it was not as detailed. I felt like I needed to be doing some other teaching on top of this. Like, this was more extra practice for students that already sort of knew what they were writing. And also, since I just started with third grade, he hadn't used the second grade or the first grade. So I felt like he was already missing a few of the skills that he needed to be successful. So not that he was doing terrible and he was enjoying it. I just didn't feel like we were getting what we needed out of it. So what I decided to move on to next, I found this How to Write an Awesome Paragraph Step by Step on Amazon. So I'll make sure to link to every curriculum I mentioned down below. And I liked this. So what this was, it was basically, like, I loved the very beginning. It just breaks down, here's a paragraph, and then you would highlight the topic sentence, the details, and then the closing sentence. And so it basically goes through, and then the student would go through and have to highlight the topic sentence for each of the activities. And so it slowly moves on, then it starts giving a topic sentence, and the students were supposed to write some facts that would maybe go with that topic sentence. And then it switches to, it gave like the paragraph and they needed to write the topic sentence. One thing to note about this was that I did find it's definitely written for that middle school to high school range, just based on how much space they give to write. This was not all that great for my third grader because he still writes somewhat big, not overly, but he still needed more space to write. And then some of the content, like they're talking about, oh, getting your driver's license or when you graduate. So I could totally tell that this was intended for older students. I do like this. I'm going to keep this around. But again, I felt like I jumped the gun a little bit and I moved forward a little too quickly because this was, again, about the structure of writing. And I didn't think that was getting us where we needed to be because I was having a hard time just getting him to write a paragraph independently on any topic. And, you know, I don't care at this point, I don't care if it has a topic sentence, details and everything right this second. I just wanted to see writing happen and have him enjoy it at the same time. So what I decided to do with his writing now, and I just started this week, is I just found some journal prompts. So I came up with a few, and I actually found some cute winter ones from Evan Moore. I'll link those below if you're curious. And we just started doing a writing journal. I basically went totally back to basics. And so the first one, I wrote climbing trees is, and then he was supposed to write the rest. I said, just write just fill the page. Like, I didn't care. I said, don't worry too much about spelling. I'm not looking for capitalization, punctuation. I just want you to write just so that he understands, like, because the first sentence is climbing trees is, and he wrote fun. This is my son. This is why we're trying to get longer writing. And I said, that's great. So put because and keep going. So he went ahead and did that, and then like the next one, I said, if it had snowed last night. And so he had to write about what would happen if it snowed. So another small thing that you can see over here is after he finished writing, I looked at some of the common words that were misspelled, and I wrote them over here. And so these are kind of going to be his spelling words, but not keeping them like week to week, but like have. So I wrote have, and then he wrote have, and then I wrote would correctly and he wrote would. So like was spelled incorrectly, play, and there were a few words he asked me how to spell, and so I told him, but I just kept that in my mind to write that down as well. And so some of them were very basic, some were like built and ground, which are a little more tricky at this level, so didn't expect him to get them right, but I want him to see how they're spelled and get a little bit of practice without being, we're not writing them 5 times or anything like that. So this has been fun, and it's been interesting just to see that he is enjoying it because he gets to write essentially whatever he wants, because, just a little bit of a starter or a prompt, and then he gets to go from there. And that's kind of what I've started focusing on. Once he gets comfortable being able to write a page pretty quickly, not having to ask me for help or ideas, then I'm gonna start kind of getting into those topic sentences, details, and making sure he includes all of that in his paragraphs. All right, I feel like that section could have been its own video entirely, but that is currently my struggle, is writing. And as you can see, I've gone all over the place this semester, and that's sometimes just what happens. You have to do what works for you and your child. If something's not working, if you think you've given it a fair enough shot, but it's just not giving you the results you want, try something else. You can always go back to it. I still have the 180 days, and I'm thinking maybe we will go back to it. But for now, that's just not working, and it's not doing what my son needs. All right, some other English language arts things that we have been doing besides the reading and writing is my kiddos have been using Typing Club. The 2nd and 3rd grader are doing Typing Club's 3rd grade spelling. So this is before I started implementing the spelling like word type thing in his journal. But it's just introducing them to more complex sounds and ideas. And I like that it's just something that he's being exposed to. And then I'm hoping it kind of sticks. I'm not, putting too much stock in it that he's going to totally learn how to spell with it, but it is interesting, and it's also helping his typing skills, which we're also working on. I also make sure that my kiddos have 15 minutes of their own independent silent reading, so they can just go to the bookshelf, set a timer, and they can just read. They do read other times outside of this, but this is just so that I know that they're just getting some of that independent practice. I don't require them that they have to read a certain book. It's totally up to them what they read. I don't even mind, for my younger and even my olders, if they just want to sit there and like flip through pictures and look at them, that's great. One thing I have been doing, because they are starting to read some like early grade chapter books, and I'm not having them read those aloud to me. They're reading them on their own. I'll try to ask them a few questions here and there just to like make sure they're understanding the stories, but I've never read these stories. Right now, they're really into The Last Firehawk, A to Z Mysteries, and Dragon Masters. So those are 3 series that my 2nd and 3rd grader are enjoying reading, and I've never read those books. I don't know that they were around when I was a kid. So what I did find is Book Adventure. So this is an online program, and it is kind of like a quiz. So they can go on and do quizzes and get vocabulary. They search for the book, and then again, all of these early reader books, early chapter books, I have seen that they are on the Book Adventure, and they can do quizzes. And as they complete quizzes and vocabulary, they get points, and then they can play games. So it's a little bit of a motivator. Not that they needed it, but I thought it was a little something extra fun they could do, is just so that I could also see, oh look, they're doing these quizzes, and so I'm getting that extra confirmation that they are reading the books that they say they are, and understanding them and enjoying them. So that's really interesting. If you're interested in a full Book Adventure review, let me know, because it's definitely something I could put on the calendar. Lastly, we always have our family read aloud. So this is typically before bed or sometimes while we're sitting down at the table eating. And I add this in just so that we can have fun and go on an adventure as a family. Currently this year we have gotten through books 1 through 4 of Harry Potter. So we're gonna move on to a few other series and then maybe come back to it later this year. All right, moving on to math. This one will be really quick. We are still and have always been using primary mathematics. My kinder's, it moved on to is still on 1B. 2B for my 2B for my second grader and 3B for my third grader. We are not moving. I actually have the next level up for each of my kiddos. We're not moving as fast as I had thought, but I'm finding that we're really having to slow down because I really want them to master the concepts before we move forward. So I had thought we would already be moved on from level B for my second and third grader, but we just haven't yet. There's a lot of multiplication, so I'm slowing down and I've added in some flashcards for them to just really be comfortable with that before moving on to anything more complex. And that is totally the beauty of homeschool, is that if you find that your child hasn't mastered something yet, you don't have to jump to the next lesson. You can sit back and say, you know what, let's really make sure we get this before we move on. And you know, with primary mathematics, it's definitely mastery based. It does have some review sections, but it doesn't review a lot. So I don't want them to forget or not have a skill before moving forward. I do have a full in-depth review of primary mathematics levels 1, 2, and 3 if you wanted to take a closer look at that. All right, for science, I think I had shown that I had 3 different topics of books that I might be going through. I ended up deciding on starting with astronomy. I ended up just asking my 3 boys, do you want to do astronomy, life, or I think it was physics or chemistry? I can't remember what the third one was. So we've been working through astronomy. New curriculum for us this year. I did love that I was able to use Humble Heart Press to print out the student pages. So this is the teacher's edition, and it does have student pages in here that you can print out. They're like, they look slightly different. And so you can print those out or copy them, but so I just purchased the digital student edition and had Humble Heart Press print them and bind them, and there's even this nice like clear cover. And then my kids each now have their own science textbook, so I'm not spending my time printing things or anything like that. We just open it up and we go. It has been kind of fun. I haven't been as interested in the topic, so there are days where this gets put to the back burner, where there's things that are more important. So we haven't gotten too far through this, but also science is one of those things where I do feel like we get a lot from like YouTube channels and science documentaries, and we go outside and we're looking at nature study. So I don't put too much of a push on the science curriculum. I do think if maybe I was slightly more interested in the topic, we would do it a little more. But for now, we're just chugging along through this, and if you want a review on it, let me know. I'd be happy to kind of give you a more in-depth look into this, because I don't have a review on that yet. So for history, we are using History Quest with all 3 boys. Oh, and science was also the same. I'm using the same science curriculum with all 3 boys and the same history curriculum. So I love that each of these are family style, so that I don't have to separate out, you're doing 3rd grade history or whatever. We're just all doing it together. So I liked this, how it has a book that this is kind of what you read from. It also has like a teacher's guide that has activities and like even a unit schedule. Again, I'd love to give you guys a full in-depth look into this. It is very pretty and very easy to follow, and like has cute little activities that you can do that go along with the readings. But I do like how the readings, this book, so when I'm reading it, it's almost as if I'm telling the story to my kids, and it's also, I'm giving them facts and details about what happened in the past. And then there's these little sections that are called history hops, where like we got to go back in time to the stone tool makers. And so it's saying, you wake up in this time and you're cold and you have to put your animal skin over you a little closer. So it kind of puts the kids, as they're listening, into that first person sort of mindset, like as if they're in that time period. So that's been really interesting and fun. Again, I'd love to give a full review on this. Let me know. It also has a student, this is from the same company. Sorry, I feel like I'm going all over the place. This History Quest and the Astronomy are both from Pandia Press. So they also had a student version. They have student pages, and I went ahead and had them printed out, and they recommend a binder, but I went ahead and just had it all spiraled instead of putting it in a binder, just so there are like the history hops, they only give you 1 page, and then you're supposed to make the copies or print it off multiple times if you have the digital version. But I went ahead and just did that all at once and put everything in order and then spiraled it together and had it bound. So that way I don't have to worry about doing it as we go. It's all done for me. So my kids just have to open it up. Like here's one of those history hops where we went to China and saw some of the early scribes. And then, anything they needed for an activity was written in here. and then when they had their copy work, I just left a page in here. So I kind of created this just for the use so that it was easy for me. Again, I love Open and Go as Open and Go friendly, so this makes it easy for me to be able to do the history because I just have to read it and then say, okay, open your books, let's do this. And so that makes it easy for me, and that's a win in my book. All right, we are almost done. The last couple things I wanted to mention that are full force in our homeschool is typing club. Each of my kids, even my kindergartner, enjoys typing club. There's different levels, and I have a full review on typing club if you want to see what it's about. So we are using typing club regularly, and we're also using iReady, which is a math and reading kind of program that our charter school uses. And so I just have them do the lessons to kind of keep up. It helps to fill in any gaps that the kiddos might have. And it's also, again, I love to have a mix between independent work that my kiddos can do on their own and work that they do with me. So that way, if I'm working with one student, they can go on and do something on their own, and then when it's their turn, we can switch. So I like to have things in the day that they can do independently. Also, we have a variety of websites that I'd like to let the kids go on more after they get all of their main schoolwork done. But Code Monkey is something I also did a review on that you can check out, and a few other programs. There's also some of the things that I put on my kids' computer. You can check that video out if you want to see all the different like extracurricular type educational websites that they use. So the last thing I want to mention is something that I said I was going to get started with at the beginning of the year, is the Tuttle Twins, and this is economics and some finance. So what it is, it's just a bunch of stories, really, really simple, and it teaches your kids about different concepts for how to handle finances or run a business or anything like that. So I haven't actually gotten into reading these 100% through. I've read a few of them, but my kids have actually been picking them up off the bookshelf during that free reading time and reading them. So I'm actually curious because now they've read more than I have, and I was really interested in what these were. So I've also been thinking about the Tuttle Twins website has different teacher lesson plans, so kind of looking at some of those and seeing how I can incorporate it. But at the moment, these have just been some free reading fun for my kiddos, and we'll maybe move on to them. I'm thinking at this point, maybe next year, we'll kind of really dive into that. All right, I felt like that was a lot to get through, and so I hope that some of my curriculum choices help you, or maybe help you not use that curriculum. Whatever the case may be, let me know if you have any questions about any of the curriculum I'm using or why I'm using it. I'd be happy to answer. And let me know if there's anything that you would like me to do a review on in the future. All right, so I need to know, what new curriculum are you using this year that you are just in love with? Again, I'm still looking for a good writing curriculum, so if you have a good idea, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to get more homeschool content just like this. See you next time.